Hey, Claire.
Hey,
So, our listeners want to know, where have you been? Because they've seen all these like rotating people coming on the podcast, which has been really fun. But we miss Claire. Claire, what's going on?
I feel like I need to reintroduce myself. Like, hi,
I
I'm
know.
Claire. I am a co-founder of Vivify STEM, even though I have not done Vivify in what seems like forever, because I have been deep in the trenches of weather balloon launch preparation, which you've done a lot, so but it's been a
Yeah,
minute
it
for you.
takes over your life.
How many balloons have you launched?
So many I've lost track, but somewhere around 8.
8. Okay, but you did like 2 at
Because
a time,
I've done
right?
like 2 at the same time when I was doing it at the end. Yeah.
Which blows my mind. I don't know how you can handle that type of stress of the potential failures.
It was not recommended.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I don't plan on doing that. One
But
is
you
enough.
survived.
I survived. I'm here. And let me tell you, this is my third time to do it, and it was the best one yet. So it's a
Oh.
great way to wrap that up. And this is the first time that I've done it where we actually have classes left before the end of the school year. So we're able to do the recap, reflections, talk about data, all that stuff. So it's been so good. I'm excited to tell you about it.
All right.
So
Okay, let's start from the beginning.
the beginning.
So,
Mhm.
well, maybe not from the very beginning, but the last episode that you were on, you were like, I'm doing all these projects and everything all at once. And you were talking about weather balloon launch. And so your launch just happened,
Yes.
as of this recording, was last Saturday. Was everything okay preparing to it? Were there any like panic moments like leading up to the launch?
So Texas is all underwater. I don't know if
Yes, that is
people
true.
have been following, if the news even talks about how Texas has been flooding. So we've had record rains for the month of April was record rains. Uh, the balloon launch was scheduled for May 3rd, and even the beginning of that week, like that Monday, we're going to launch on a Saturday. That Monday, looking at the forecast, it was like rain. My church almost flooded, that like several cars stalled out because the roads were flooded. And we're thinking, I mean, we can't even get to anywhere. And the forecast is saying there's more rain to come. Saturday was supposed to be completely rained. And I told the students, hey guys, we have a backup for a couple weeks, but I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. We not only do we need no rain, which seems ironic for a weather balloon to not have weather, but you need less than 50% cloud cover and calm winds, which is less than 15 miles per hour to launch. So looking at the forecast at the beginning of the week was like, that's not happening. But by Friday, the forecast cleared, meaning zero clouds. And I think
Wow.
the wind was maybe 2 miles per hour. So
Oh,
super
wow.
calm. It was amazing. So panic moment, mostly about the weather. That's usually what happens, right? We've had the first time I launched, I think we delayed it twice because the weather was bad. It's
Mhm.
just hard in the spring. But I have launched a balloon in November before. I think you've done some
Yep.
winter balloon
Mhm.
launches. That's equally as hard because
It's not. Yeah.
I mean, there is no good time of year, is what I'm thinking. So you just kind of have to be patient and always have backup plans. Now, the thing that I do with weather balloon launches, is because I'm nervous about things going wrong, but still want it to be an exciting event. So I make it a big event. So we do it at the airport here in Graham, where I live, and we have a bunch of pilots bring out their aircraft. So they're all on static display for the students to walk around and look at. We had an aerobatic airplane. We had tail draggers, bicycle gear airplanes. We had a gyrocopter, some really cool aircraft, Bonanzas, Cessnas, Cirrus, all
You
sorts
have
of
all of
things.
those? Oh my gosh.
There were, let's see, 8 airplanes that were all out on the airport, including
Wow.
an air tractor. So that's the company that I used to work for before I started teaching. They are the world's leading manufacturer agricultural airplanes, so crop dusters. If you've seen Disney planes, Dusty Crop Hopper, that's based off of an air tractor crop duster aircraft. And they were our sponsor this year. And so they brought out a 502 aircraft, which was really cool. So that was at like front and center of all these airplanes. It's huge. Not their biggest, actually one of their smallest airplanes, but they're still really big. And when they left, actually, they did they can put some oil in the exhaust and it leaves a smoke trail. It's how agricultural airplanes figure out which way the winds are blowing. So they know if there's some sensitive crops in the field next to them that they need to be scooting over so they don't accidentally spray things that they don't want to on places they don't want to. So anyway, they did this smoke spray when they were taking off, and they did it like a low pass right over all the students. It was really cool because then you can see really nerdy aerospace things where you see the way that the spiral comes off of the edges, the wing tips, which is really neat in the smoke.
Awesome.
So that was amazing. So having all these airplanes there, even if we didn't launch a balloon, was really cool.
It's just like an aerospace party.
It was awesome because also, since we had an airplane manufacturing company sponsor us, their engineers came out. So we had a bunch of engineers that were aerospace and mechanical engineers. They were actually all from A&M, which is also really cool because I had them all talking to the students and, starting that brainwashing early.
They're going to think you can only go to A&M to be an engineer.
I mean, that's what I tell them, but also, yeah, just kidding. But that was really cool because then when the airplanes were doing different things, there's actually an aerobatic airplane competition this weekend at the airport. So the guy who had the aerobatic airplane, it was a Pitts, that was on static display. He actually went and practiced before pulling his airplane over. So the kids got to see that too. And so that aerospace engineers got to explain what's happening and the different designs of the airplanes and why they're designed a certain way for what their job is. It was perfect. It was really cool. Yeah. Another thing that went wrong, though, is I also had a food truck there, which was awesome, except the food truck got stuck in the yard where it's from because of all the mud and everything. So that was a big debacle, but it made it. So it was okay. We'd had everybody like prepay their meals, so that's why it was like extra stressful. It's like, oh, people already paid to get their food. It's not like the food truck doesn't show up and it's like, oh well, we just won't have food, right? It's like people were already ready. Anyway, but it worked out. My dad was there being like the MC and a DJ.
Okay, good. I was gonna ask.
Oh yeah, so there was music. He used to be a wedding DJ, so he had speakers and music, and it was awesome. And all of the songs were from like our generation, which means all the parents were like, yes, Backstreet Boys, like this is my jam.
The kids are just like, what is this?
Yeah. No, they all knew it, which was really interesting. Like, where are you hearing this stuff? I bet your parents play it in the car.
I do.
So yeah, so the event was the most beautiful, perfect weather. So many really awesome things were happening. The fire department came out, brought their ladder truck and had the ladder like fully extended, like a look what we do kind of, I don't know, just there kind of thing. Yeah. Which ended up being kind of a problem because I wasn't paying attention to that when we were launching, and we almost launched the balloon underneath the fully extended ladder.
No.
Like it was within feet, missed that. So that was a problem. But it was okay. Which you'll see in the video how close it got to that. We also, our PE teacher here at the school is a drone pilot. He has
that's how you got the drone footage.
So I sent you some really awesome drone footage that he took. Yeah. So I actually messaged him last minute and was like, hey, are you going to be at the balloon launch? You bringing your kids? Are you bringing the drone? Because that would be really cool if you could chase the balloon. And he did. So that was awesome. So these are all things that if you're wanting to do the weather balloon project and want it to be an event, I would highly recommend doing it at an airport because of all the pilots wanting to show off their airplanes, but also for safety, because one of the big things with the weather balloon project is being able to file a NOTAM, which is a notice to airmen, and that lets aircraft know that are in the area that there's something flying around that they need to be looking for. And I thought, well, launching it from an airport would also give it more visibility for pilots So then the airport manager, he was talking on the radio the whole time, directing traffic, saying, hey, we're about to launch, letting everybody know in the area what's happening. So that made me feel really good, because our weather balloon actually flies into the DFW Metroplex.
Of course.
So I have extra heart palpitations during all of it, making, like,
So is the airport manager tracking it the whole time?
so
Or he's just
everybody is
notifying your local
just
airport?
notifying the local. Yes.
Okay.
Anybody who's within range that can hear the frequency. We're not a towered airport, which means that the aircraft aren't required to talk to anybody when they're flying around us. But if they're tuned into the frequency of our area, then they'll be able to hear the airport manager talking about it. So, which they should be, because they'll want to hear other traffic in the area. They just don't have to request to land or request to depart. So, so wanted extra safety there. But yeah, so the event was really cool. Of course, a lot of students don't get to show up on Saturdays because there's baseball games and soccer games and all sorts of things, but enough kids showed up. And I actually called on a former student of mine. So the first time I did this was 5 years ago, and it was with 5th and 6th graders. And I had one of my first time kids, who's now a 10th grader, come back. I have her as a high school journalism student, and I was like, I need you, because a lot of my kids aren't as motivated this year. And so I needed somebody to make sure, because there's always like a handful of kids that you can trust. And my handful of kids that I can trust is smaller than a handful this year. So I needed her as backup, which is great, because she made sure all the knots were tied, which weren't, before we launched. So that was awesome.
Yeah, there's just so many details that happen. And you, as like the main lead, you can't like manage everything. Like, I know one year, like the camera didn't turn on. Another year it was facing the wrong direction. Another year, like this wasn't attached. It's just so many details. Even if you have the checklist and all the things, it's so easy to forget something.
Yes. And when you yourself can't be checking all of the things, like, is this thing beeping 3 times every 6 seconds? Is this thing have a green light but not a blue light? Does this, because those are that, yeah. And it's just too much when you're trying to also inflate the balloon and make sure all the things are blinking correctly. So yeah, it was hard. Even the last minute, we were walking out with the balloon, and I was like, hey, did somebody put the battery in the buzzer? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't hear it. So that's a no. So put the battery in. Yeah.
Good catch.
Yeah. And the train for this is really long. So there's like this fishing line that goes from the balloon all the way. It goes to a parachute, and then to a radar reflector, and then the APRS transmitter, which is a radio transmitter tracking device, and then all the way to payload. And it's like 40 feet long. So if you're at the balloon, you don't even really see the payload. And so to know if everything's working, you just physically can't be in all the places.
Right. And I saw like, if someone posted a video of you were the one holding the balloon, and I was like, Claire doesn't trust anybody. She's like, I'm holding this balloon so you don't let go.
Truth. Yes. Yes. I had one student say, I got it. And I was like, I'm good. Like, nope.
That was me. I was always like, I am not letting anybody touch this.
Yes. Yes. We had a backup balloon just in case, and enough helium just in case.
Helium's the other one. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we had a problem with the helium too.
Oh, no.
The day before, we went to go pick up the helium tank, and the place, Airgas, had generously donated a full tank of helium to us. And helium is super expensive. That was like the major expense. So grateful to them, but I think there was some miscommunication, because when we went to go pick it up, they were like, what are you talking about? Like, well, we have a tank that we need for our lunch tomorrow. And they're like, tank, what size was it? I was like, 250 cubic feet. And he was like, oh, we just gave that to the high school today. I was like, what?
What are they doing
No,
with it?
no. And they're like, sorry, guess we made a mistake. I was like, yeah, let's fix it. So they ended up being able to get it back, fill it back up, make sure everything's
nice.
there, and then we got it to the airport.
That's a big freak out.
It's like, I mean, yeah, need
That's
the
a no-go.
That's nothing. You can't fix that. So yeah. So that was great. So you know what happens next? We all walk out. We're
And you're
carrying
like
this.
holding all the kids in like a train.
Yes, we had to actually practice that, which is always really funny. I'm like, we're going to pretend like you're holding it loosely. You're holding baby birds in your hands. And you need to be able to lift the baby bird up into the sky. Show me how you do that. I feel like I'm talking to kindergartners when I'm instructing them. It's like we're all going to walk at the same time, which was funny because even though we rehearsed this, they're like, can't walk at the same time. These are middle schoolers. So I had the ham radio club also was there because one of the trackers that we use is an APRS transmitter, and it uses radio frequencies to send a signal. So the reason why that works is because of ham radio. You have to have somebody with a ham radio license to be able to use their call sign for the tracker to work. So I use our local ham radio club. You probably have one in your area and you don't know about it. But they're usually a bunch of old guys who love talking on radio.
Super excited.
It's great. They were excited to be there. They helped inflate the balloon. But they also jumped in. I think they were all Boy Scouts or something. I don't know. But they all knew about how everybody should march together. So I was like, okay, everybody together now. And like everybody was like a mess, didn't know how to walk. And then they were like, 1, 2, 3. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So it was great.
That's funny.
They're like, forward march.
I love that.
So yeah, that was awesome. So we all march out. There's like all the families were there and people cheering us on.
Oh,
We do a big countdown and then everybody starts running and we lift up the balloon and let it go. And it takes off. It's surprising how fast it goes up in the air. So we almost hit the ladder truck of the
right.
But
And so I will pause you here because I was like, why is she marching? Because I've always like inflated the balloon where I launch it, but you're inside of a hangar, right? And you're like setting it up and then you're moving it outside.
Yes. We set up in a hangar for a couple of reasons. One, it kind of keeps us separated from the crowd that's there because we do it as an event. Make sure we don't lose anything because there's always lots of kids, little kids running around. They like to touch all the things, and that makes me go crazy if they're touching all my stuff. Like, what if something goes wrong?
So you're like restricted area only for.
I mean, there's cones. Yeah. So we set up in there, but also for wind. If there's some gustiness, you don't need extra tension pulling on that balloon while we're trying to inflate it and not let it go.
I have video of that on my first launch, and we're all like, "Wow!"
Yeah, because that thing is huge. Yeah, yeah. People don't realize how big the balloon is. It's 6 feet in diameter when you first fill it up. I think ours was bigger though. I was like, I don't know. Maybe we put too much helium in this thing.
It's always better to have too much, and it went really high, which we'll get to.
Yeah. So I think we put more helium because the little gauge thing. So let me back up. You can do this in several ways. This project, you can do it like a total DIY and buy your own stuff, build your own payload out of whatever things. You've done that before. Or
much harder route to go.
Yeah. Or you could do the easier way that I do, which is buy things from highaltitudescience.com. And they have like a frame that's a triangle that's made out of really light wood. And they have several of the instruments like the flight computer that takes the science data, the parachute, they have the balloon. You can buy all the things that you need from them and assemble it. Super straightforward, a lot less stress because you know that this is tested and this is how it should work. So that's what I do. You've done that most of your
that's the one, right?
Okay. Yeah. So That's what we got, and it tells you like how much to inflate the balloon and how to inflate it and all of that stuff. So we use all that. They have a calculator to figure out your how high it's going to go and all the things for that. So I highly recommend using their kit and all of their information. But my estimates don't usually go the way that we calculate, and I think it's because the scale that they give you with this kit to inflate the balloon. It's a spring scale, kind of like when you need to weigh your luggage before you go on a trip. If you have one of
Mhm.
those luggage scales, it's like that. But the little tick marks between the numbers, I mean, there's just it's really hard to be accurate with what those
'Cause
things are.
it's bouncing a little bit and
It's
yeah.
like, do I have 1,800 grams or 2,000 grams? I don't know because there's not much space in between the numbers.
Mhm.
So, the first time I launched this 5 years ago, it didn't launch. So we let go of the balloon and it went up barely and then came back down and our payload started bouncing on the ground. It was horrible. We had to go
Yep.
back in the hangar and reinflate, like, because there was not enough helium. So this time I was like,
Happened to me as well, so
it's a I think it's a common thing. So I was like, "This thing is going upwards. We're making sure there's enough helium in here." So, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how accurate you can be with
right.
this kind of thing.
And the people listening are probably like, "Well, why don't you just put a lot more helium?" Well, the problem with too much helium is then it'll go super far because then it'll keep going and going and going and going and goes much farther and higher up, and then it takes you 5 hours to go retrieve it.
Yes. And there's trade-offs on everything too. So the more helium you put in, the bigger your balloon is, which also creates more drag. So you're trying to figure out with the weight of the payload that you have, how high you want it to go. And so you have to kind of play with the numbers because you also don't want it to rise too slowly because you're going to run out of battery in your GoPro camera.
Yep.
So it's
Mhm.
all kind of a dance of math, which is a great application of math if you have kids that are needing to see an application of math and why it's important to do all these calculations well. So, anyway, but I always put in way too much helium, I think, now because I just
Yep.
want it to launch.
Same. Mhm.
Because the recovery will just make it work wherever it goes. So we had calculated for the recovery for it to go about an hour and a half from where I live, but that is not where it went.
Yeah.
It
Tell
went a
us.
lot farther. So, we had a food truck there. So after we launched, we're like, "Woohoo!" Everybody was dancing, playing Celebration, and then we ate some delicious food and hung out for a little bit because we don't wanna start chasing it until it starts coming back down, because otherwise you don't know where to go.
Right.
So we knew kinda ish the direction to go. So we waited about an hour and then loaded up with my recovery team, which was 4 students. One of those is my daughter, which is pretty fun
That's
because she's in
awesome.
my class this year. And then we just started driving. Now when we started driving, it had already reached a certain altitude, and I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be coming back down." Well, it didn't. It kept going
Yep.
up. And I'm like, huh, this is surprising." So, it ended up going almost 89,000 feet, which
Wow.
I have never had a balloon go that high
I
before.
haven't either.
Not even close. You haven't either?
Mm.
So the balloon that we use is the 600-gram balloon from highaltitudescience.com, and they say the highest it can go is 100,000 feet. I think that's if there's nothing on the payload.
I've never gotten that close to
I
100,
don't
yeah.
know if anybody has. So, but, yeah, 89,000 is a crazy number to me. That's so high. And I don't know if people realize how high it really is unless you think about what happens. The highest things you can think of, like if you've traveled in a commercial jet, you've
Mhm.
maybe gone 40,000 feet. That's pretty high for
Mhm.
even a commercial jet. General aviation, you can only go 25,000. You need oxygen at that point, but um, and yeah, I mean, you're above, way above all the clouds, above the ozone layer. I mean, nothing goes that high unless you're on a rocket.
Yeah.
And
Just the view from up there is just incredible.
it's amazing because you get to see the curvature of the Earth. My second grade students, when I showed them the picture yesterday that we took with the GoPro at the highest altitude, they're like, "You can see the blanket." I'm like, "Blanket?" They're like, "Yeah, it's like a cozy blanket around the Earth. It's all warm and
Oh,
fuzzy." It's like, "Oh, you can see the blanket."
I'd never heard it like that. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
There's like a glow around the surface
Yeah.
of the Earth, and then you just see black space. And then you
Mm.
see the sun, which my students were like, "Why is the sun white?" I'm like, "It is white. You're outside of the Earth's atmosphere. The sun is white. It's not really yellow. That's the atmosphere." So there's so many things that you
That's a
can
good
talk about.
observation. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, it was really cool. The balloon, when it popped, so what happens is it starts at about 6 feet in diameter, the balloon, and then when it goes up to altitude, it expands because there's less pressure, and it gets up to like 30 feet in diameter. Is that right,
Mhm.
Natasha? I
Something
think
like
that's
that, yeah.
what it is. Crazy
I was
big.
thinking it's at least double. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets huge and then pops and then starts falling back down. The parachute kicks in once there's enough pressure to fill the parachute. Well, at 89,000 feet, there was not enough pressure to fill up this parachute. So it just starts tumbling. And the reason I know that is because we have GoPro footage. We had 2 GoPros on there, and it is just going nuts so bad that the balloon got wrapped around the flight line. It's just like a crazy mess. And I can see, I have graphs that I can show you. If you
Math.
like graphs, right? I got spreadsheets, but you could see this like crazy drop until it gets to an altitude
Mm.
where, because I also have pressure readings till there's enough
Mhm.
air pressure to fill up the parachute. So
That's
really cool
cool.
stuff that you can show on video and then show spreadsheet of data and see how that lines up. It's pretty amazing.
Which, direction were your cameras facing?
We had one facing straight outwards towards the horizon that faced our science experiments that we had on board, and then one facing downwards. But the one
Okay.
facing downwards, it had a blue light that was blinking, which meant that the Wi-Fi was on. And so I think it sucked out all the battery before it reached altitude. So we didn't get very much from that besides the launching it. Like you could see the kids like doing the release of the baby
That's
birds.
the
Like
best
I was
part.
training them.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So we got that. But besides that, the other GoPro was really great to see it spinning going up, and then all of the science experiments. We had grapes and Orbeez for the science experiments. So they were in clear containers that had holes in it to expose to atmosphere, and you could watch them freeze and then see what happened after that. We had 2 different kinds of Orbeez. We had blue ones and then these whitish ones that glow in the dark.
Mhm.
And the whitish ones, like nothing happened to them. They froze, but then they remained intact, all good, still glow in the dark.
Hmm.
The blue ones exploded. So,
What?
yeah. Uh, yeah. So I asked the students, I was like, why do you think they exploded? And they were like, well, probably because they had blue dye in it. So there's probably more chemicals. So that probably changed when they would freeze. And then I was like, oh, it, yeah, maybe. So we're
Yeah,
going
I
to do
was like, "I don't know."
I don't know. Yeah. It's like, yeah, yep. Yep. That's what I was expecting you to say. so, so we're going to do some experiments on the ground and see if we can replicate that.
Oh,
So
that's
that'll
cool,
be fun.
though.
Yeah.
Did you say were they able to recover the experiment? Did it, like, survive impact?
Yes. Everything did. So the recovery
Yes,
is
tell us.
always an adventure. So we're driving. It's still going up for a long time. But when it started coming back down, it was headed towards another big airport.
Oh,
And it was in Class Bravo airspace, which is, I don't know if there's any Class Alphas in the United States. I think Class Bravo is as high as you get, but it's the busiest airports. So DFW Airport is Class Bravo. That's the airspace we were in. If you think of the major airports in the United
mhm.
States, those are all Class Bravo. So a ton of air traffic. I was freaking out. It's like, please don't hit an airplane. Please don't hit an airplane. And then it was headed towards another airport. I was like, well, that would be interesting. So I am calling this airport, trying to like get a hold of
Find
somebody
somebody who might tell. Yeah.
like, it's in your airspace. Can you please make radio? Like the NOTAM has been filed, but I don't know if all the pilots read the NOTAMs. A lot of them don't, especially if they're old school and they don't have like an iPad
And
or something.
does the NOTAM tell them, I can't remember, like predict where it's supposed to land?
No. No, it's only when it launched and the direction that it was going. That is all I told the guy. I was like, that is not enough information. Now, it would show up on any aircraft that have the radars that shows other aircraft in the area. It will show up on that because we have a radar reflector on the payload on the flight line. But I don't know who, most airplanes are not going to be paying attention to that. So anyway, couldn't get a hold of this airport and I am stressed. But we make it to the area and I see that it lands before it gets to the airport. And I was like, oh, that's good.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm not seeing anything online about airplanes crashing or anything like that on the news. So I guess it's okay. But it's in this big field. I was like, great. It didn't land in a body of water, didn't land in back of somebody's pickup truck like it did last time.
Right.
And of course we had the buzzer on it, which you've had a buzzer on yours before, which can cause problems.
It causes a lot of problems. I will never put it again, but it is nice because if it's in like the woods, you can hear it and locate it easier.
Yeah, which was useful for us. So we noticed it was in somebody's backyard. It was somebody's property. So we go to the front gate of this ginormous property with a big old house on it. And there's no like little keypad thing or anybody, like you can't buzz in or anything. And the gate's locked. We're like, well, what do we do? So we went to the next door neighbor and we're like, I noticed there was an A&M flag. I was like, friend. So I was like,
A&M's the theme in the story.
Pretty much. Yeah. The guy comes in and he's got an A&M shirt on. I was like, you an Aggie? I was like, I'm an Aggie. He's like, no, my son is. He has 1 year left in nuclear engineering. I was like, great. I was aerospace engineering. And he was like, oh, cool. I was like,
who are you?
Anyway,
what are you selling?
Right. And he was like, oh, that neighbor, he's a doctor and he travels all the time. So if his gate's closed, he's probably out of town. I was like, okay. And I don't want to trespass. Can't do that. So we called the police department. Yeah. And had to talk to a really great officer.
Had to do that one also. That's the thing you have to do. Yeah.
Yes. You have to get permission. Don't go on somebody's property and trespass. Yeah. So the police officer goes door to door also. He's like, we can't trespass either. But we can't get a hold of this doctor guy. He said, but the next door neighbor, we did talk to them and they're renters and they said they won't shoot if you go over their fence and go in the backyard. I was like, great. Thank you. What? So we got.
That's just Texas jokes for you.
Basically permission. Yeah. Permission to go in this property. So we had to hop a couple fences and cross a creek, which we weren't prepared for. I had brought rain boots, but none of the kids did. So they were like in hey dudes. And so we're like going in this, we went through the creek and then we were crossing these fields and like the most beautiful fields covered in wildflowers. But the grass is like up to our waist. So I was like, we're probably all going to have chiggers after this.
But, yeah.
As long as we find the balloon.
It's part of the adventure.
Exactly. So we make it to the area where we have a spot trace, which is a GPS tracker. It's still working. The APRS transmitter is also still working. So we knew exactly where it should be. Looked over, didn't see it, but we could hear it because we had the buzzer on. And that meant that it was up in a tree. So
of course,
up in a tree. And I was like, great. We walked like half a mile to get through here, like in there's no way we could get like the fire department out, which is what we did last time we got stuck in a tree. It's like, we don't have a ladder. Like, how are we going to do this? Hold on. Okay, so the buzzer is going off and we're looking up. It's a tree. We can't get a ladder. And we notice it's also on the other side of a barbed wire fence. So we're able to like figure out a way to squeeze the students through the barbed wire fence. And we're like, okay, what do you see? Like, is there a way to climb up this tree? And one kid's like, I got it. I can climb the tree. It's the kid in the Hey Dudes. And I was like, no.
Please don't.
Please don't. We can't get an ambulance out here in this pasture. But we noticed that the balloon and the parachute were on the ground. So the flight line had still made it like past the tree. So they were able to like keep yanking on the flight line for the payload to break loose out of the tree. So we got it.
Yay.
Yeah. So we recovered it. Of course, nobody else had been out there. So we had all of the SD cards still in the GoPros and everything worked. Nobody had stolen everything. You've had experience where people have taken your stuff.
Yeah, if y'all want to hear that story, read the blog post. We'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah. So the best part is being able to take the recovered payload home, put in those SD cards, and see what you got. So we got some amazing footage. We'll attach it in the show notes somewhere, showing a picture of my science experiments with the curvature of the Earth in the background at almost 89,000 feet. It got down to negative 34 degrees Fahrenheit, and the balloon ended up, the highest speed it went was 189 miles per hour.
Really?
Yeah, it hit some kind of crazy jet stream and just took off. So
wow.
Really cool to get that data back. You can see the altitude, temperature. We got relative humidity. That was an extra sensor that we bought. And we can compare that to our science experiments, teach the kids how to plot data. Just amazing. It went so well.
And this project is the most, it's an emotional roller coaster ride. Like, you will experience the biggest highs, like at the end when it like all comes together and you put in that SD card and you're just like, oh my gosh, it was worth it. But then you remember like the lows of things breaking, the helium tank, kids are just like not focused. And every year we're like, would I ever do this again? And as you heard, this was Claire's third one.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, any teacher can do this. Like, it sounds intimidating, but High Altitude Science has this great kit. We're not affiliated with them. We just love their kit. And we have a full weather balloon project guide that is centered around that kit, but you can really use anything. And I know, Claire, you have lots of things that you're going to update in that product. So if you have purchased that, it will be updated this summer. So feel free to email us, re-download it, because we have a lot of good content. I know you want to update.
Yes. So every time I do this, I add things to it. This time I'll be adding some teacher slides to it that we haven't had before. I mean, it's kind of a overwhelming, massive information that we give you, because we really want you to feel equipped to do this. And this year was probably my most challenging because I had a lot of unmotivated students and I needed them to have specific tasks to do every class period that really tried to engage them. So I'll be including all of those. That's team briefings. They had assignments they had to do. And this time, since I had time to reflect, I also have some reflection prompts and things that the kids are writing. So right now they're kind of writing a story about what happened and their experience in their teams. And it's really been encouraging to me because like you just said, every time I do this, we're like, never again. This was so stressful. Like, it was also equally awesome, but just a lot. But then to see what the kids have gained out of this and how, like, even the one that came back to help me this time, she was like, I'm there. I will be there to help. It is so impactful. Mm-hmm. And so reading these stories and these kids talking about the stress of it and like all the work that they put into it, I'm like, you really were engaged. You just, I don't know, middle school vibes are weird, but what a great opportunity for them that will really set them up for like a lifetime of intrigue into science and engineering. There's just so much that ties into this. So I hope that if you are out there and you teach middle school or above, that you would even consider doing this. And you can always reach out. We'd love to help if you aren't real sure about it, and we can help hype you up and encourage you and give you all the resources that you need to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And Claire, congratulations to surviving this project. And on the next episode, I want to hear all the other projects. I know you have 2 weeks of school left and you're trying to wrap up all the things. So stay tuned. I have a few more guests lined up to fill in while you manage the end of the year, but you're coming back and we're going to hear everything that you did this year in your STEM classroom.
Perfect. Looking forward to it.
But for now, STEM Space out.